Long before DC's Wonder Woman walked across movie screens, there lived real warrior women, born of blood, fire, and battle, the true Amazons of history. This is the story of an extraordinary woman named Ikosa. She was raised in a small village in ancient West Africa.
In a quiet fishing village of that ancient West African kingdom, there lived a fisherman and his wife. The man cast his nets at dawn, and the woman sold her catch at the busy village market. Yet sorrow lingered over their home, for though the woman carried many pregnancies, none of her children survived. She birthed 4 daughters, one after the other. Each child lived no longer than a moon's passing before death claimed her. And always, a new pregnancy came, and the same grief returned. By the 4th loss, the villagers had given the woman's unborn child a name even before birth, Ikosa, the one who returns. They believed the spirit of a single girl was being born again and again, only to die, cursed to circle back into her mother's womb. But then, on the 5th attempt, a girl was born who lived. She grew, fragile yet bright-eyed, and by 8 years of age she was full of life and wonder. Still, the villagers never let her forget the name Ikosa. They whispered that she was not merely a child, but a spirit walking among them. One morning, while her mother sold fish in the crowded market, Ikosa followed her father onto his small wooden canoe. Together they rowed out toward the shallows of a small island, where the man often set his nets. The sea was calm, the air heavy with salt. Everything seemed peaceful, until the girl slipped. In an instant, Ikosa tumbled from the edge of the boat and plunged into the deep. Her father leapt after her, diving again and again, his lungs burning, his hands reaching into the dark water. But there was no sign of her. She did not rise, did not float, did not call for help. The sea swallowed her without a trace. From sunrise until the last light of evening, the fisherman searched and wept. He scoured every cove, every ripple, crying his daughter's name to the waves. But the ocean gave no answer. By nightfall, the village believed the cursed child was gone forever. The fisherman returned home broken, certain his daughter was gone. The sea had claimed her, and all he could do was grieve. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into a full moon's passing. Then, one morning, the villagers discovered something strange upon the shore. There, at the edge of the tide, lay a woman, not a child but a grown woman, her skin salted by the sea, her body still as if lifeless. She looked to be nearly 30 years of age, yet none could say who she was or whence she came. The villagers gathered around, whispering, pointing, afraid to touch her. When at last she opened her eyes, she claimed to be the fisherman's daughter who drowned. How can that be possible? The people gasped. It had been only a month since the girl vanished beneath the waves, a child of 8 years. Yet this woman before them was 20 years older than the girl they remembered. Her parents rushed forward in disbelief, but when the woman looked at them, her eyes filled with tears. She reached for her father's hands and sang softly the old tune he had once sung to her as a child, a song known only between them. At that moment, the fisherman fell to his knees weeping, for he knew beyond doubt that this was his daughter. When they pressed her for answers, Ikosa told a story both wondrous and terrifying. She said she had not drowned, but had been pulled into the depths by the river goddess herself. In the world beneath the waters, time flowed differently. What seemed like a single month above had been 20 long years below. She had lived in the courts of the goddess, learning mysteries no mortal should know. And now, for reasons she herself could not yet understand, she had been returned. The villagers could hardly believe such a tale. Yet the song, the voice, the very soul of the girl they had called cursed was now before them in the body of a grown woman. And so, though mystery cloaked her return, the people began to whisper a new kind of name for Ikosa, a name touched not by curse, but by power.
In the days after her return, the villagers pressed Ikosa with endless questions. What did you see? What lies beneath the waves? What kind of world did you live in? Her answers only deepened the mystery. She spoke of realms unlike anything the villagers could imagine, a land where the sun never rose nor set, but eternal day reigned, and another where no sun shone at all, only moon and stars forever watching. In those worlds, she said, the order of things was reversed. Women held the strength, while men were frail. Women ruled, and men followed. The people could not comprehend such a place, yet her words carried the weight of truth, as if she had walked through a world of dreams and returned changed. Her parents, though shaken, accepted her as their child, for whether she was spirit or mortal, she was theirs. Not long after, the village was thrown into terror. Beyond the huts and the market lay a stretch of woods, a dark and whispering forest the people dared not enter. For years, children had vanished there, drawn in by play or curiosity, never to return. The elders spoke of a monster that dwelled within, a beast no man had ever faced and lived to tell. Warriors had gone into those woods, armed with spears and courage. None had come back. One night, a mother's wail pierced the silence. Her child had gone missing. The villagers gathered in dread, certain the beast had taken another innocent. But before fear could settle, Ikosa stepped forward. "Do not weep," she told the woman. "I will bring your child back alive." The crowd gasped, and some even laughed bitterly. How could a woman succeed where the strongest men had failed? Yet Ikosa's voice was steady. She spoke of the kingdom beneath the sea, where no one was abandoned, where harm could not touch those under its protection. "I am here now to protect this village," she declared, and before her parents could hold her back, she dashed into the forest. All night the villagers waited, certain they would never see her again. But before dawn, Ikosa emerged, the missing child safe in her arms. Behind her, dragged across the ground, was the beast itself, a monstrous bear, larger than any creature they had ever seen. Its eyes were dim, its body broken. The people stood in stunned silence. No man had ever returned from the forest alive, yet she had gone alone, slain the beast, and saved the child. That night, the whispers of curse faded. The villagers saw her not as the child who returned from the dead, but as something greater, a woman who carried the strength of gods, a protector unlike any they had known. From that day onward, Ikosa's name spread with awe. She was no ordinary woman. Whatever task was thought to belong to men, she did better. When the hunters set out with bows and spears, she walked alone into the forest. By nightfall, she returned with game enough to feed many families: antelope, boar, even beasts no man dared face. Her weapons were nothing but simple spears, yet her courage seemed carved from iron. Villagers would shake their heads and whisper, "Is she truly a woman, or something more?" Even the warriors of the village, proud and strong, could not stand against her. Time and again they tried to test her strength, and each time they fell like children beneath her blows. None could match her speed, none her skill. Soon, men who once mocked her name began to fear it. One day, while returning from the bush, Ikosa heard the desperate cries of a woman by the stream. She rushed to find a young wife being cornered by a gang of men. Without hesitation, she stepped between them. The men laughed, but their laughter ended swiftly. With her bare hands, Ikosa struck them down, leaving them beaten and broken, fleeing in shame. From that day, no man in the village dared raise his hand against a woman, for they knew Ikosa's wrath would follow. Her deeds spread far beyond her small village, carried on the tongues of travelers and traders until they reached the great king of the empire. He scoffed at first, unwilling to believe that a mere village woman could possess such power. Yet his curiosity grew, and at last he summoned her to his court. Before the gathered crowd, the king called forth his fiercest warrior, a man undefeated in combat. Ikosa accepted without fear. The duel was short. With a single strike she cast him down, and the crowd roared with disbelief. The king, astonished, sent another, then another. Still she prevailed. At last he commanded 5 of his finest soldiers to face her together, armed with bows, swords, and shields. Ikosa stepped forward carrying nothing but a dagger. By the time the dust settled, all 5 lay defeated, writhing in the dirt. The people shouted her name, their voices echoing through the palace. The king himself rose from his throne, his face alight with wonder. He had never seen such strength, not in man nor woman. And so he declared, "This woman shall not live as a villager alone. She will stand among my soldiers. She will be the sword of the kingdom." And thus, Ikosa, once called cursed, was chosen to serve the throne itself. One day, news came to the kingdom that another empire, known as the Grey Host, was coming to wage war against them. Their soldiers were many, their armor was strong, and their horses looked like mountains on the battlefield. When they heard that a woman was leading the king's army, they laughed. "A woman against us? We will crush her like dust," they said. But the king trusted Ikosa. He gave her hunters, fishermen, and soldiers, and she led them to war. Ikosa did not wear heavy armor. She chose speed and cleverness instead. She knew the land better than the enemy. She tricked them into chasing her army into a swampy river plain. The ground there looked dry, but it was soft and dangerous. When the enemy's horses charged, they sank into the mud. Their heavy armor dragged them down, and they became easy targets. Ikosa's hunters threw ropes, set traps, and rained arrows from the trees. The Grey Host's strength turned into weakness, and many of them were trapped or drowned. Their leader, a huge soldier named Harun, escaped the swamp and came straight at Ikosa. He thought he could crush her with his sword, but Ikosa was faster. She dodged his blow, tied his leg with a rope, and made him fall face first into the mud. He could not rise again. The enemy soldiers were shocked. The woman they had mocked had defeated them all. They dropped their weapons and surrendered. When Ikosa returned victorious, the king was proud. He offered her great honor, land, and a high position among his warriors. After the Great War, Ikosa returned home with victory. She was not only strong, but also very beautiful. Her eyes were bright, her skin shone like the morning sun, and her presence made men tremble. Even the king's son could not resist her. He had watched her fight with courage greater than 10 men, and he said in his heart, "This is the woman I will marry." At first, many were surprised. A warrior woman, to become a queen, they whispered. But the prince loved her deeply, and Ikosa agreed to be his wife. The king himself gave his blessing, for he knew no one else in the land was worthy of her. In time, Ikosa gave birth to 6 daughters. Each daughter carried her mother's fire. Even as children, they were not like others. They could climb trees faster than boys, they could run like gazelles, and their hands were strong in wrestling. Ikosa taught them to fight, to hunt, and to protect. She told them, "Strength is not for pride. Strength is for protecting your people." Years passed, and the daughters grew into mighty women. Together, they formed a band of warriors who guarded their kingdom with loyalty and fearlessness. They fought side by side, never breaking their bond. No invader dared to laugh at them, for they had seen what their mother had done before. Soon, other women from villages came to join them. What began with 6 daughters became a great army of women, known far and wide. They were the first of the warriors who, in later times, would be remembered as the Dahomey Amazons, women who stood like iron walls against enemies, even when the colonizers came. And so, Ikosa's name lived on, not only as a woman who fought for her people, but as the mother of a legacy. Her daughters carried her spirit, and through them, the world came to know the strength of women who could fight like lions and guard kingdoms like gods. For centuries they defended their kingdom, unbroken, unyielding, unstoppable. But no empire lasts forever. In the 19th century, the tide of European conquest rose with rifles and cannons. Even the Ikosa, for all their bravery, could not stop the storm. Thousands fell, yet their courage burned itself into the memory of the world. Today, Wonder Woman is celebrated as a figure of comic legend. But the real Wonder Women walked the earth in Dahomey. Flesh and blood warriors, daughters of fire. They wore no golden tiaras, carried no lassos of truth. Their weapons were sharper, their courage more brutal, their sacrifice more real. And so, when we ask where Wonder Woman truly comes from, remember the Ikosa, the true Amazons, the forgotten queens of war, whose legend is far greater than fiction.